All right, we shall start, everyone. Okay, Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera to everyone. So, today is our sharing session with the USM MOOC Challenge winners for 2021. We will have with us today two speakers. The first slot is with Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Teh Soo Yen from School of Mathematical Science. Dr. Teh is already here with us, okay? And the second slot, okay, pending confirmation because something came up, is with Associate Professor Dr. Jamal Safri from School of Educational Studies. Okay, that one will be at 3:30 to be confirmed. Okay. So today's slot is actually for sharing session by the winners, the top winners actually from the USM MOOC Challenge 2021. Even though we missed, okay, the deadline to join in the USM MOOC Challenge for 2022 this year, the cutoff for joining in is on 15 March. Recently, we are busy with our intensive week, but it's okay. We still can plan for next year. And there is also the ongoing micro credentials, okay, project where we promise our VC as part of the transformation plan for PJJ that we will deliver, okay, 50 micro credential plus SIM courses. Okay, so we produced 10 micro credential for last year. Okay, I'm not sure about the numbers for SIM. Okay, so basically we need to deliver more to fulfill our promises. Okay, so before we start with the speaker, I would like to invite our Deputy Dean for Production and Support System, Dr. Chua. Maybe say a few words. Yes, Dr. Chua, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Razia, and very good afternoon and salam sejahtera to everyone, especially our invited speakers today, Associate Professor Dr. Teh Soo Yen. Thank you, and thank you for accepting our invitation and to share your winning story for USM MOOC winner 2021. Yeah, well, I think this is just going to be a santai, casual sharing sessions, and I hope everyone can post questions to Dr. Teh to know more about how she arranged her MOOC, and then we can learn from her experience. And thank you very much, and happy learning today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Chua. Okay, Dr. Teh, I'm going to show this video. Okay, after that, I will hand over to you. All right, congratulations, Dr. Tay, for last year. Okay, so hopefully that will motivate us in PPJJ to actually produce a MOOC or micro credential for this year. Okay, MOOC for next year perhaps. Okay, I'm going to okay, wait, change role. I'm going to make Dr. Tay the presenter. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Tay is from School of Mathematical Science. Okay. Okay, so without further ado, okay, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Tay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Razia.
Yes.
First of all, allow me to thank the school, PPPJJ, for giving me an opportunity to share my MOOC story with my fellow colleagues here in USM. Well, I am not an expert on MOOC, and I have many more things to learn about developing a good MOOC. But I hope you will be inspired or motivated by my sharing today, or at least find it useful and start developing your very own MOOC or micro credential after this. So I have 2 courses so far in open learning, which is the platform that we are using to develop MOOC and micro credential courses. So one of them is the MOOC, that fortunately won something at the USM MOOC challenge last year. Well, this MOOC of mine, it is free for everyone to join. So if you are interested in looking at how I structure the course, the kind of contents that I put in the course, then please feel free to join because it's free. You don't have to pay anything. The other course is actually a micro credential course, so it will cost 20 ringgit to join. I use the same style in developing these 2 courses, so it will be enough for you to join the MOOC course if you're interested in exploring the contents, but I don't mind if you want to pay like 20 ringgit to join the micro credential. Okay, so I when I was first invited to talk in this sharing session, I have consulted Dr. Razia about what I should share about my MOOC that will be of interest to the participants of the session. So she gave me some ideas about what I should talk about, and motivation is one of them. So my motivation for developing the MOOC, it actually started from when I was tasked to do micro credential by my dean. So it's sort of like I have to do it because I was I was tasked to do it. So because of that, the school invited Prof. Karim to give a talk on micro credential, and in his talk, he talked about unbundling our course for micro credential, and then take one module out and maybe make it as a MOOC and submit it to the MOOC challenge in USM. So that is where I first started thinking about developing the MOOC for the MOOC challenge. So I joined the MOOC challenge, and then I began thinking about what kind of MOOC should I develop. And so it has to be related to the course that I was tasked to for the development of micro credential. And then I remember that I have experience helping in the supervision of final year students in other sciences school, biological sciences, and so on. So one thing that I noticed is that the students, they have problem understanding differential equations and even solving them. And we don't want to like sit there and then teach them the basics of differential equations, and so we have to point them to a source where they could actually learn about differential equations very quickly for them to use in their research or in their project. So that's why I created this mathematical modeling with differential equations course, so that students will find it useful. They can just spend 2 weeks to go through the contents of this course to learn a little bit more about differential equations, or to refresh what they have learned about differential equation, basic differential equations, and hopefully it will be useful for their projects or for their research. So I think that will be my sort of my motivation in creating the MOOC, and also well, basically the MOOC course. So for your information, I have this calculus course series created. So this is actually based upon the Calculus for Science Students 2 course that is offered by School of Mathematical Sciences to students from other schools. And so I have to create like 4 micro-credentials and 1 MOOC. So the MOOC is ready, and one of the micro-credentials, the one on improper integrals, is ready. So I'm developing the one on infinite series, and then I have 2 more to go. So there's a lot of work to do. But for this talk today, for this sharing session, I will perhaps mostly talk about MOOC. And so how is a MOOC, how is it different from the usual program to usual course in USM, and basically what is so different? The platform that we use to create the MOOC is called Open Learning. So how is Open Learning different from eLearn, basically, or how is the MOOC created in Open Learning different from eLearn, the course that we have already, using Moodle or eLearn? The thing is, MOOC is accessible to all. Now, eLearn is only for our students' internal use. So when you develop a course in Open Learning, it is basically accessible to all, even the public, students from other countries. They can join, and then they can look at the contents that you put in the MOOC, and then they can do the activities, assessment, and so on. And I think, in my opinion, using the MOOC course will have a more attractive and organized layout, just like a website. If you have created your own website before using Wix or using Google Sites, then you will be able to relate more to what MOOC, the layout of the MOOC. It is like a personal, it's like a website. You can put in contents as you like. You can do a lot of things, I guess, in MOOC. And I find MOOC easier to use. Okay, easier to use than eLearn. If you have been using eLearn actively, if you are already like advanced level in eLearn, then you'll find the Open Learning platform really, really easy, and you can learn it really, really fast. And there are a lot of tutorials in the web, and there you can ask the Open Learning support team on certain things. So I think it is very easy. So do not be afraid of using Open Learning to develop your MOOC. The one thing, the limitation, one thing that I think is a limitation, so maybe I'm wrong about that, because I don't know a lot about Open Learning. But one thing I noticed is they only have basic assessment widgets. If you want to create like course assessment activities, they only have like basic widgets for developing the questions that you want to assess the student with. And so in eLearn, I think they have a little bit certain things, the certain widgets that I think are more suitable for math. I use like closed questions and so on. I think it's, and then there's manual marking and so on. So there are things in eLearn that I think is more advanced than the Open Learning platform that you use to create the MOOC. But you can overcome that limitation by using maybe HTML. If you know a little bit of HTML, I think that will work really well, because you can convert the clause type of questions into HTML and so on and so forth. So this is what I think is different between MOOC and from the kind of courses that we offered in USM using eLearn. Okay. Then one thing that I think a lot of us asked when we were first tasked to do micro-credential is, how do I unbundle the course? Now, how to decide on the syllabus for the MOOC or for the micro-credential. So I'm going to share with you my thought process when I unbundled my MAA 102, which is a Calculus for Science Student 2 course for micro-credential and also for MOOC. So MAA 102 is a 14-week course. It's the the usual course that we have in USM offered to our students, and it's a 4-unit course, so the SLT is 160. And so I cannot just offer a MOOC course on MAA 102 or a micro-credential course on MAA 102 because it's a large course and it will take 14 weeks to complete it. So keep in mind that the MOOC and the micro-credentials should be bite-sized. So it should be very short courses. So think of it as short courses. So you have to unbundle it, put it as separate modules and offer a module as a course. So then we have to think of how to unbundle the course. So there are many ways to do that. So if you attended Prof. Karim's talk, he has a lot of suggestions on how to unbundle your course. One of them is to unbundle it according to your learning outcomes, your course learning outcomes. But for me, I did it differently. I unbundle it according to topics or chapters. Like for my calculus course, for this calculus course, I have these topics that I need to cover. So these are basically chapters in calculus. So I will unbundle my course according to chapters. So improper integral is a course by itself. Sequence and series, basically infinite series, will be a course by itself, be a 6-week course. And functions of several variables will be a course, multiple integrals, and then after that, the last part, the topics, methods for solving first order differential equation and its application will be a course by itself, and I just rename it, to make it more attractive as a course. So I rename it as mathematical modeling with differential equations. So that is my MOOC course. It's a 2-week. This should be MOOC. I'm sorry, this is not MC. This is basically the MOOC course. So this is how I unbundle my course and how I decide on what kind of title that I should use for my MOOC, what kind of titles that I should use for my micro-credentials, and so on. So I think the first thing to do when you want to develop a MOOC or micro-credential is to know how to unbundle your course. If you want to create MOOC or micro-credential based on a course that you are currently teaching. Okay, but you can also create like MOOC or micro-credentials for some other things, like focusing on certain aspects, certain skills, like using a certain software, for example, which is not part of any course that you're currently teaching in USM. But for me, because I'm tasked to do this calculus course, so this is the way that I'm bundling and making them into micro-credential and MOOC. And of course, course learning outcomes, you have to, when you're developing this MOOC and micro-credential, you should have the course learning outcomes. So the MOOC learning outcomes and the micro-credential learning outcomes. And of course, it has to, we created it based upon the PPK. So we have to tally up the student learning time with the PPK. So that's a lot of work. So you have to plan for that, what are the course learning outcomes for your MOOC, for micro-credential. Now, for me, it's very simple. I have 3 course learning outcomes from my calculus course. So how I do it is that for each topic, I just change the keywords here. For example, the course learning outcome for calculus is to identify the correct technique for solving a selected calculus problem. So when I'm developing a course on improper integral, I'll change it to solving an improper integral. And for the MOOC, it's like solving some of the basic types of differential equations. So you can see that the course learning outcomes, they tally, they are the same, except that I focus on a select topic. So hopefully this gives you some idea when you're devising the course learning outcome for MOOC or for your micro-credential. And then a little bit more about my MOOC course. So this is basically the structure, the overall structure of my MOOC. So if you join my MOOC, you should be able to see this there. And of course, it has to be aligned. All the learning contents, the lessons, and so on has to be they have to be aligned to the course learning outcomes. So in this MOOC course, I have 5 modules. Okay, 5 modules. You can have more than that. You can have less than that. But because I'm submitting, I intended to submit this to the MOOC challenge. So the MOOC challenge has some regulations, some terms and conditions. So one of it is that you have to have 5 modules and above, at least 5 modules. So that's why I have 5 modules. Luckily, I'm able to, have 5 modules there. And then in each module, the lessons that you have. And then after that, the duration for each modules, how you have to give an expected duration for the students so that they know how many days they should spend for each module. So I've summarized that in this figure here. And also, you also have to have assessment and activity. So that's the criteria for MOOC. So when I first started developing the MOOC, I really have no idea what I should do. What is MOOC and how should I structure it and so on. So I just follow the list, the MOOC list that was provided to us by CDAE. So I followed that, and one of the criteria is, of course, to have assessment and activity for each module. So I just comply with that, terms and conditions. So I have to have assessment and activity. So you can choose what kind of assessment you want, what kind of activity you want. So for me, assessment is pretty much like quiz. Because for math, you have to understand is math is pretty hard to think of the right assessment because you cannot, it's pretty hard to do assessment math, math assessment of the subject math online. So I choose to do quiz, very simple. There are a variety of questions like multiple choice question, short answers question, and there's some fun activity, fun questions, gamification, those kind of assessments. And then I also have activity. Basically, my activities are assignment-like, so I ask them to do self-exploration using some online tools. And also sometimes I also have 1 or 2 experiments, very, very simple experiments. And basically that's it. Most of them are using technology because that is the 3rd learning outcomes that I have here. I have to have this, I want the student to, learn more, go in depth into the subject matter by using, tools like software or online tools and so on and so forth. So that fits in well with the learning outcomes that I have here. So whenever you structure your course, whenever you devise the content of your course, you have to make sure that they match well with the course learning outcomes. And the course learning outcomes are accounted for. So so the CLO and PLO here, certain modules, they only satisfy 2 course learning outcomes, which is fine. But most of them, they fulfill the 3 learning outcomes. So I specify it very clearly here. So it has to be clear. So meaning if you are, for your MOOC, everything has to be clear. The CLO, the PLO, which activity contributes to which CLO, it has to be clear. And maybe I can talk also about the tips and tricks. There are many tips. I don't know about tricks, but there are many things that you can do in MOOC, especially if you're joining the MOOC challenge this year. I think maybe you will find some of the tips here useful. So for me, I think what makes your MOOC stand out is you have to do it your way. Your way, your style. use your own style, because everyone, each one of us, we have different way of teaching, we have different style, we have different way of thinking, different, we are different. So I would advise you to do it your own way and style, but just make sure that you fulfill all the criteria for a MOOC. And I think the list provided by CDAE is a good guide. So the MOOC criteria, if you have the list from CDAE, it has several sections, like the general criteria, what you need to fulfill generally, and what you need to have in the landing page, what you need to have in the course overview and information, the course structure, and assessments, video or slide presentation. They have criteria for all these things. So if you refer to it, then you will be able to create a good MOOC, that is ready, for to be offered to the students. So the list looks something like this. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have fulfilled all these criteria. So that is if you're joining the MOOC challenge, but even if you're not joining the MOOC challenge, the list is really useful, because then you know what you need to do for what you need to have in your MOOC. Yeah, I find the list very useful in that sense. So the second is, I think, because when you offer the course to public, you have to make it interesting. They have to make it interesting, because then it will attract people to join your course. If it's not interesting, if it's the same as other courses, usual thing, then people are not motivated or not inclined to take your course. So one of the way to make it interesting is to have various styles of lesson videos. So you have to make it interesting, be creative. So you need to do some lifelong learning, learn some software. I have to learn a lot of tools. I have to use a lot of tools to produce these videos, make it different. Some of these videos are not that great, the ones like this. I think it's not that great, but I think maybe I can do better than, I should do better than that. But I think maybe it's nice to have some different style of teaching. So these are some examples of lesson videos that I have in my MOOC course. So if you're interested, to just join it and look at the videos to get some idea on how you can create videos for the MOOC course. Then and then I would advise you to also go beyond the standard assessments and activities. So meaning, if you can do the usual thing, like I say, the quiz, multiple choice question, short answer question, but it would be good if you can think of, some more fun assessment, the assessment that the assessment questions or activities that are, not the usual one. You cannot, it gets boring if you use the same, multiple choice question, short answer for every single lesson or for every single module. So you have to change things up a little bit to make it refreshing for the student. So one way is to use some tools like this to create some fun activity or assessment assessment questions, I guess, like this. So I find this very fun. So I just put it in. I think there are many more tools that you can use, but this is one of the tools that I use. It's actually created using WordWall. And also some activities, activities assignment. For maths, it's always assignment. You can do something else like online plotting software, use online plotting software and so on. But I think we can do some activities like this. This is some experiments like this. So this is one of the not so standard kind of activity in my MOOC course, which is an experiment. It's an optional one, but there's another experiment where you ask students to do some very small experiment. They don't have to do anything. They just can do it online. So think of some assessments and activities that are unusual, I would say, that are very different from the normal type of assessment activities. Of course, then utilize fully the tools and resources provided or readily available. I use all these kind of tools, so that will perhaps give you some idea on what kind of tools that you can use for your MOOC or for your micro-credential. I use a lot of Canva, and I mainly use OpenShot to edit the videos. And then Genially and WordBall, I use them to, well, Genially, I'll use them for a lot for, you know, lessons and just, I think lessons, yeah. And then WordBall for the assessment. I use Trinket for the Python because I also use Python. So I introduced some programming in the MOOC. So I use Trinket for that purpose. And also I use a lot of free images from Pixabay. I think for those of you who have diligently attended the workshops organized by CDAE, you will be very familiar with some of these tools or resources. So yeah. And then highlight your course marketability. So this is how I highlight my course marketability for MOOC. So I thought about it, like who wants to attend a 2-week course of mathematical modeling with differential equations? Now, the first question that I think the student will ask is whether they can really learn to model, you know, to mathematical model stuff after completing the 2-week course. So I just have to convince them. So convince the potential students that that you can really do mathematical modeling if you complete this course. And this is how I did it, because I have supervised this group of students from educational studies back in 2019, and they actually won the competition, the mathematical modeling competition, using a model that is very similar to what we have in the MOOC. So this is how I highlight my course, you know, how I make my course attractive, basically. In my mind, I think it makes my course attractive and it gives a little competitive edge. So that's my thinking. So if you can do that, that will be great. And then also, of course, I think I think the MOOC or micro-credential, we have to really focus on students' learning. So a lot of things, a lot of questions when we have the micro-credential workshop, a lot of people will ask, like, how do I really assess the student? Well, you know, how to make sure the student pass, you know, get 90 marks or 80 marks. But I think MOOC and micro-credential, they are not like that. We don't focus on, you know, the student getting 90 marks or 80 marks or 70 marks and so on and so forth. We focus on making sure the student actually understand by giving them feedbacks and making them understand the subject matter, and not just, you know, testing them and not giving them marks, but more on aiding their learning, making sure that they understand the subject matter. So I would advise the contents, the activities, basically the assessment activities, to focus on students' learning, you know, instead of making sure that they have like 50 marks and above or 60 marks and above. And then visually appealing content. So meaning you need to use a lot of graphic, not just text, you know, everything text, black and white is not very appealing. So you have to introduce like some colorful things, you know, colorful pictures. So for example, use, you know, very attractive font like this. That's my thinking. Maybe it's not attractive from the perspective of students, but I think it you know, it makes it stands out, pop out, you know, not everything is in black and white. So, and then use a lot of graphic, for example, the module image, use a lot of graphic that actually reflect the contents of the lessons. And then when we talk about activities, of course, like questions for the assessments and so on, we have to describe the problem statement. I usually add like a picture, just to make it a little bit more attractive. So I think a good MOOC will have some visually appealing contents like this. And one of the most important thing is to have real world examples or applications. So I try to have some examples or some problems that involve some applications of the models in the MOOC. And these are some examples that I have. This is an activity, one of the activities using technology, how I give them the data, they model the data, use some basic regression, and some discussions about some lake pollution problems. So these are this I think it is real good to have some applications in your course, in your MOOC and in your micro-credential. And of course, encourage interactions among the learners. So you have to encourage some discussions among the students. So one of the activity that I have, because encourage interactions is something that we need to do in micro-credential and in MOOC, but I'm not really very good in encouraging interactions in my course. I couldn't think of any activity that would encourage interaction. One of the activity that I've thought of is the group activity like this, radioactive decay experiments, when I in which I asked the students to do some experiment together in a group. So that is the only activity that I think in my MOOC that encourage interactions, but I think I should do more than that, but I couldn't think of any, so I just stopped there. But I think what will make your MOOC interesting or my micro-credential interesting is that you have activities that encourage interactions among the learners. And of course, my MOOC is not perfect, although I won something at the MOOC challenge last year, but my MOOC is not perfect. There are some weaknesses in my MOOC, and these are the feedbacks from CDAE about my MOOC. So I think I want to show it to you so that you can look at the feedback and maybe you can consider them for your MOOC. Make sure that you don't repeat my mistakes. For example, my activities and assessment, they are not numbered. I did not list them as 1, 2, 3, so maybe it's not very clear whether there are 1 questions or 2 questions in my activities or assessments. And then I apparently have no learner-to-learner interaction. I thought the radioactive decay experiments is an activity that encourage learner interactions, but I think that is not enough. So that's why when you develop your own MOOC, you should have activities that encourage learner-to-learner interactions. And so also suggestions by CDAE that I can arrange these. So these are the things that you can consider when you are developing a MOOC. So I think that is the end of my talk. So these are the tips and tricks that I think will help in developing your MOOC. But I think another thing is you have to attend workshops to really know better what you can do in your MOOC. So CDAE workshops, they are very useful. So do try to attend these workshops if you intend to develop your MOOC or micro-credential, because you will learn you'll learn a lot of things from these workshops. So when I first started with MOOC and micro-credential, I also attended a lot of workshops and try to learn something from the workshops. So I think that's the end of my sharing session. So thank you very much. So that's all. If you have any questions for me, I will be happy to answer them.
All right, Dr. T, there are a few questions.
Okay.
Like, it's general question, I think. In terms of this MOOC and micro-credential needs to prepare BPK or course structure as normally planned for teaching?
You don't have to prepare BPK, but when you intend to develop a if you're talking about micro-credential, okay, Micro-credential, you have to submit a course mapping to CDAE first.
All
Okay,
right.
course mapping. So they have some kind of template that will ask you to fill in the modules that you have in that micro-credential, and then how you calculate the SLT and so on. So it's less complicated than PPK, so don't worry about that. But you have to know your student learning hours. For example, if you say that for my course, I say that it is from MAA 102, so I have to make sure that the combination of all the MOOC and micro credentials will amount to 160 SLT.
Okay,
For
do you
MOOC, it's
mind?
different.
Oh, okay. Do you mind continue? Yes.
For MOOC, I think when I first create the MOOC, I don't have to submit anything. I just need to, because I just joined the competition and then I just submit the title and then just do it. I don't have to submit any form, any cost mapping or anything, but you have to mention in your MOOC like the student learning hour, student learning time, so that the student would know how much time the student should pour into this course. What is the student learning hours, so that they know how much time they should spend on completing the course.
All right. Actually, we have good news from CDE today. The USM MOOC challenge for this year, 2022, is still open until the first week of April. So everyone who like to join in the MOOC challenge, what you need is just submit with Puan Halimatun as CDE your MOOC title, and if you have the course plan, that's all. And then you have ample time until the deadline in September to submit the full MOOC. Okay. Dr. Tay, do you mind showing us your actual course online?
Sure.
Now we keep the questions coming, everyone.
Yeah.
We have our in our audience today, the dean itself, okay, who is actually the one who proposed the idea to have this MOOC sharing session, so that we can have more participants for the MOOC challenge from PPJJ. Okay, this is Dr. Tay MOOC, the one that win the USM MOOC challenge for 2021.
Yeah. So for the MOOC challenge, you can just submit a tentative title. You can always change the title later.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know, when I submitted my MOOC for the challenge, I want to submit to the challenge because I think it will put me in a position to complete a MOOC, because I really want to know whether my online course, my way of thinking is correct or not, because I have to do my credential, you see, and then I have to make sure that I do it correctly. So joining the MOOC challenge is good, because then I will get feedback and I know whether I should follow the same style for my micro credential or not.
Mm-hmm.
And also because MOOC challenge has a deadline, so it puts you in a position where you have to finish the MOOC. So it gives you the driving force to complete it. If not, you will just like, okay lah, tak apa lah, kita tunggu. We just sit there and then just do it slowly. But MOOC challenge is just you have to submit, so you have to do it.
Okay, now the question coming from me. Okay, when it comes to producing this MOOC, what kind of support do you get from your school, from CDE itself? Okay, or do you need to spend money, your own money, and what are the challenges?
I think you need to support from school. I think let me think about the support from school.
Do you need to buy any of the software? For
We
example,
have to, well, you need to spend money. For example, when you want to record the video and so on, you need to, spend some money buying a good camera, a
okay.
webcam at least. And you need to, now the thing is you need to have a really, really super fast computer, or else you will be frustrated with the video editing. If you don't want to edit your video, that's fine, but I edit a lot my videos, I do a lot of editing, so I find that you have to have a very good computer, a very fast computer with a large RAM and space, so that you can store all the edited videos and so on.
All right. Can you show us the learning activities while we wait for questions?
So
Everyone,
learning activities, this is how I
please.
configure my learning activities. Like I say,
Mm-hmm.
we have 5 modules. Okay.
All right.
So if you open each of these, then you will see the lessons in each module.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do some planning, know what kind of lessons that you want to have in each module.
So for each lesson is a standalone page with the
Yes.
video and the activities.
Yes. You don't have to have like a lot of videos. You don't have to have, let's say, one video for each lessons. You can do it sparingly. Now, some modules of mine, they don't even have videos. For example, this first module, I don't have videos at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just have some, some general introductions, and then I use this generally to create these to make the student understand better what is general solution, what is particular solution, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then just go directly into assessment time. So you have to make sure that you don't overburden the students, because this is a bite-sized course, so it should be something simple. Okay. And the quiz is very simple, like this. And these are these are the things that I do for assessments. And those with videos, for example, I think this, you can also have videos like this, videos like this. Most of the lessons I have videos because I find having videos easier. But for the MOOC challenge, you just need to produce like maybe 2 of your original videos. Now, one thing about MOOC is that you can actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, you can actually use videos from like YouTube. Okay, you can actually do that, but you have to give credits to that video or something like that. If I'm not mistaken. So for MOOC, you can do that, but for micro credential, I think you cannot do that because it's commercial. You make the students pay, so you cannot use other people's video for commercial purposes. But for MOOC, I think if I remember correctly, you can use videos from YouTube, for example. So let me show you an example of that for the Newton's law of cooling. So I actually use a YouTube video here for this activity, for this experiments. It's actually a YouTube video. So you can see that you can actually use contents from YouTube for MOOC. No, but not a lot lah. You have to have your own videos as well. So for the MOOC challenge, I think you have to have at least 2 videos of your own of certain duration. And it's really important that when you create your videos, you have to make sure that your video is, I think, less than 10 minutes or so, if I remember correctly. I cannot remember exactly the time, but I think most of the videos should be less than 10 minutes. 3 to 10 or 3 to 15, I cannot remember.
Do you mind showing show a bit the video on screen just now? Play. So do you need to have the montage?
Yes.
You do it yourself or CDE do it for you?
CDAE, when you join the MOOC challenge, all these things will be made available to you.
All right. So basically, CDE does provide support in terms of.
Yes.
All right.
CDA provided a lot of support, and if there are certain things like elements from Envato, you can actually ask CDA to download for you, because Envato elements, they are not free.
It's licensed, yeah.
It's licensed, but you can actually ask CDA to download them for you. Actually ask CDA to download a lot of elements from Envato. And they did it like within a day. They are so super fast. The support that provided to you is amazing. So I like that.
All right, it's good to hear. We got one question here from Dr. Ashraf from our PJJ Maths section. The question is on the equation editor. Which one that you prefer for your MOOC or for your micro-credential production? Microsoft Equation, MathType, or LaTeX?
For if you want to type it like this, okay, it's using LaTeX. So you have to use. I use LaTeX a lot of time, most of the time. I mean,
LaTeX.
I guess. Yeah. So in open learning, you can do it in this way. So this is, you type it LaTeX and then just and then it will appear as an equation. So that is nicer. If you use
Okay.
that will be nice. Instead of Microsoft Equation Editor, you cannot do Microsoft equation or math type here in Open Learning unless you upload the PDF and ask the student to look at the PDF and so on. That worked as well, but most of the time I just put it in this form as a text itself in the page. So when you put it itself put the equation itself as text in the page, you have to use the text. Yeah.
All right, I hope everyone can see how easy it is, the interface in Open Learning, okay, the edit mode, okay, where you have all the widgets on the left side navigation panels, okay, and then the view is what the students, okay, the public will see. Okay, Dr. Tay, there's another question from Dr. Bahtia Effendi. In total, how many hours do you spend to develop this particular MOOC?
The hours I spend, I don't know the hours I spend, but for this particular MOOC, I think I spent at least, it took me about 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, without the checking, then you spend another month or two to do the checking to make sure everything functions correctly and so on and so forth.
3 month part-time basis, that means as you know, as you go along teaching, you know, doing research and all the other things. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have do you have anyone helping you with the video in particular, or is all DIY video?
It's all DIY.
Wow.
It's all DIY. I find it easier because it's during the COVID season.
The MCO.
Yeah, MCO, and then we're all trapped in our houses, nobody to help us except ourselves. But now I think CDA, you can go over to CDA and CDA can help record the video for you if you want.
CDA have all kind of studio basically.
Yes. And also my school, like because when you asked about the support by my school actually created a micro-credential room, so we can actually go to that room and record videos and so on and so on. But I did not do that because, again, it's the MCO season, you know, COVID season. So I prefer to do it at home. So most the videos that I have in MOOC, I did it myself at home. So you can do it as well. It's quite easy. You just have to have a space in somewhere in your house to do the video recording.
All right. Okay, next question from Dr. Noor Amalina. Because this is not only open to PPJJ academics, I actually send the invitations to the group penyelaras micro-credential as well as penyelaras latihan, okay, USM. So Dr. Noor Amalina is asking, can we also use animations for MOOC and micro-credential? What do you think, Dr. Tay?
Animations, not too sure what is animation. So
I think it's referring to video animations, like Biteable, like Powtoon, you know,
Powtoon, definitely. I just don't use them because I have
that's another headache.
I have limited skills, so I only know how to do the basic videos. But of course, you can use Powtoon. You can use those animation things. When I think of animation, I thought something like this.
All right. Oh, that is also smaller parts of animations. Okay, now question from me. Okay, in PJJ we have this dilemma. Our portal, okay, is compulsory for all academics. Okay, to put our resources in the e-learning portals. So having a MOOC, okay, running along, okay, this open learning MOOC running along with the portal is kind of buat kerja dua kali macam tu. So do you like make it compulsory for your student to join from your course to join your MOOC, or it's up to them, okay? And do you have the same material in your portal for the course with what you have in the MOOC?
I know a lot of MOOC developers make it compulsory for the student to join the MOOC or micro-credential, but I've not, this calculus course will be offered this coming semester, so I have not tested it for my class of students, but I'm not going to make it compulsory for my student. I don't intend to make it compulsory, but I will let them know that I have this thing No, the contents of it is quite similar to what I have in eLearn, but the ones in MOOC will be nicer, it's more attractive,
Okay.
it's more clear, there are slides available and so on. So therefore, you feel free to join it if you want.
All right.
So
So
I
it's
don't make it
free.
compulsory.
It's free to join. Okay, everyone
Free to
just
join.
join to have a look at the course, to have an idea how to create your own MOOC. Okay. Another question.
Credential, maybe I mentioned this more. Micro
Okay.
credential, for those of you who have done it before, they already know. But for those of you who have not done micro credential before, you can actually, because micro credential usually you have to pay to join, right? But we can actually create a private class where you can let the student join for free. Your own students.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you can have two classes running along. Okay, one for the paid public. Okay, and then
Yes.
the other is free
Yeah.
for
Correct.
our own student.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I have question just now, but I forgot already.
Oh, sorry for interrupting you. I'm
No,
so
it's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. Maybe what about participation from the public? How do you market your course? Because I do have my own USM MOOC. Okay, I have my own course is actually very few students. So it's quantitative economics. So after all the hardship of producing a MOOC, okay, now come to the questions of how to get people on board. Come and join. It's a free MOOC.
I'm not too sure whether I'm qualified to answer that question because I only have like 61 learners here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But I try to market my course whenever it's possible because I'm in the field of mathematical modeling. So every time I do my presentation, I try to slip in the QR code for my course at the back.
Okay.
So I
Yeah,
try
you
to
see in your
promote in
QR
that way.
code during presentation. Yes.
So I try to do that. Like whenever there's something to do with mathematical modeling, emails that I get, I try to slip in some promotion of my course. So I try to do that. But one thing is, I think it's a market. I don't know whether
Uh-huh.
like
USM MOOC.
let me show you this. Maybe I should use the incognito one because I have already logged in. So let me show you because in for MOOC you can actually send your MOOC to review by the open learning team, because if you pass the review, then they will put your MOOC in the open learning marketplace. What being in open learning marketplace means when someone go to open learning, for example, and then when they whether I can use this or not, how to do it, I cannot remember. So
Do you
when
want
they
to show
search
the
for open
USM
learning,
MOOC?
no, USM
Oh,
MOOC is
the
something
marketplace.
else. The marketplace is something else. I can't short
Maybe you
course.
can click
You can
browse
actually
all courses
browse for it. You can actually search for it.
and use the
Maybe before
filter.
yeah, I cannot remember how to do it. Math and science. Maybe this will work. So if you search for it in marketplace, maths and science, for example, you can see my courses there. Right? So I think this is one of the way that you can market your MOOC or micro credential. You send it to the open learning team for review, and then once it passed the review, which is very easy actually, then you will have your course listed in the marketplace, which means that when people go and search in open learning for a course concerning calculus, for example, my course will pop up.
Okay. Okay. What about feedback from your MOOC participants so far?
My feedback, I have not received any feedback yet. I
Okay.
have some participations from the students. I can see that some students, they have completed some activities, but they stop halfway through for some reasons. So
Okay.
I do have a page for feedback from the students. Students who completed the course, they can actually give us feedback here. But I have yet to receive any feedback from the participants. Yeah.
All right. So after doing all the works, okay, basically, you know, we need students to actually use the MOOC, right? And then only we get the feedback. Okay. Do we have more questions from the floor? Okay, everyone, do you have just it's not easy actually to get Dr. Tay, okay, knowing that how busy everyone is, okay. We in PJJ just completed our intensive weeks, okay, with the students, but on campus already started, right, Dr. Tay?
Yes.
So it is, you know, the wrong time every time. Okay, do we have more questions? So what is your recommendation when it comes to, you already shared the tricks and the tips just now. Is there anything else that you would like to share to encourage us to actually participate in the USM MOOC challenge or for micro-credential?
I know it's a lot of work to do micro-credential and MOOC, and no, when I was first tasked with the task of doing micro-credential, I was also very busy with research, you know, publications and so on and so forth. But I think doing MOOC is something refreshing to me because it's like a break from the usual activity of research, you know, supervision and so on. So it's like a little break from your usual routine. So it will I will think it will, what do you say, it will make your life more interesting because you have a break from the usual routine.
So
It's
you are not
great.
feeling burdened by doing MOOC. You feel it's a relief, is it?
I try to look at it positively. Of course,
Okay.
it's additional work, you know. I won't lie about it. It's additional work, you know, from the usual thing. You still have to publish, you still have to do research, you still have to supervise and so on and so forth. So this is an additional extra things that you need to do. But try to look at it positively, because if you look at it as a burden, you won't be able to produce a good piece of work. So you try to look at it positively. Oh, this thing will be useful for my students in the future, because I do really think that it will be useful for the student in the future. So with that mindset, you will be able to develop a good piece of work, because if you just feel burdened, then you will just feel burdened, and then you will do it with resentment. You don't want to do something with resentment. You want to do something positively, and that will give you a good result.
Okay, so to all my colleagues who are doing research, take a break. Do join the MOOC challenge. Okay, we got one question from Dr. Hairul Anwar. The question is it okay to convert lab demo to become MOOC and do assessment? Because he said it is going to be beneficial to students out there as well as the industries. What do you think, Dr. Tay?
I think that's a great idea. You know, it's
Yeah, I
very
think so.
practical. Yeah, it's very good idea. You just need to make sure that you have, if you're joining the MOOC challenge, make sure that you have like 5 modules.
Okay, you have the somehow the learning outcomes, okay, the 5 modules, each with the activities and assessment, okay, then you are in. Okay, so Dr. Tay, thank you very much for you know sharing your experience in the production of MOOC, okay, a winning MOOC. Okay, hopefully we learn a lot and we can join for this year. If not MOOC, then it's micro credential at least. Okay, if there is any other question, feel free to is it okay to email you?
Yeah, just email me, or you can also WhatsApp me if you want. It's
All
all right.
right, all right. So everyone, a round of applause for Dr. Tay. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Tay.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we are moving on to our second session. Wait. Okay, our second session is with Dr. Jamal. Okay, Dr. Jamal is with us. Good. Okay. So I'm passing the presenter baton to Dr. Jamal. Dr. Jamal is from School of Educational Studies. His expertise is in the area of sociology of education. So his MOOC, okay, is one of the top winner of USM MOOC Challenge. I already played the video, Dr. Jamal, so I'm not playing the video again. Okay, but it shows confirm you are one of the top winner. Okay, so his MOOC is on tingkah laku buli in Malay. So tadi kita telah ada satu MOOC mathematics, kita tak boleh bayang pun mathematics boleh jadi MOOC, okay, in an English. Now we have something yang novel jugalah, tingkah laku buli. Is it one of your course, Dr. Jamal?
Terima kasih Dr. Razia. Okey, yang ni
Yes.
sebenarnya yang tingkah laku buli ni tak berkaitan pun dengan saya
Ah,
punya course saya, tetapi dia lebih kepada pembelajaran untuk sepanjang hayat lah.
lifelong learning. Ah, okay.
Untuk dalam saya punya program lebih kepada BGM yang lain lah
Oh,
untuk
so
kita
it's open to the public
sebarkan di
anyone.
luar sana. Ya, untuk public.
Alright. Okay, okay. So now we have a different aspect of MOOC. Okay, so everyone can pay attention. So it's over to you, Dr. Jamal. The floor is yours.
Okey, terima kasih Dr. Razia. Okey, dekan ada kan dalam ni?
Ya, dekan ada. Tapi dekan kata, anggaplah dia sebagai peserta sahaja.
Okey, yang berbahagia dekan PPPJJ kan, Profesor Madya Dr. Zunaidi Yaakob, okey. Dan juga rakan-rakan pensyarah Pusat Pengajian Pendidikan Jarak Jauh
Kita
dan
ada
juga
juga daripada luar PJJ. Saya buka tadi kepada penyelaras micro-credential, penyelaras latihan USM.
okey, saya nampak
so
tu
ada
ada
juga.
timbalan pengarah CDAE ada kat sini.
Oh, okay.
Profesor Madya Dr. Azidah binti Abu Zidan.
Oh, okay. Then Dr. Azidah can say a few words later.
Okey, alright. Pertama sekali saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Dr. Razia dan juga Pusat Pengajian Pendidikan Jarak Jauh yang jemput saya ya untuk berkongsi pengalaman dalam membangunkan, dalam apa orang kata, mencipta MOOC ni lah. MOOC yang pada dulu ni satu benda yang tengok pun dah pening kepala, nak buat pun apalagi itu pada pemikiran awal kita lah kan, orang kata tak try tak tahu, dah try baru kita tahu macam mana nak buat dia, macam mana rasa dia. Okey, jadi pada petang ni saya tak maulah nak buat secara formal sangat ya, dia punya presentation lebih kepada sharing. Saya nak santai-santai, kita sembang-sembang santai, okey. Alright.
Ya.
Sebab dia jam pun dah 3:30 kan, semua orang pun dah lalok kan. Taklah semua orang lalok, ada saya tengok ramai yang berfokus ni. Alright. Jadi anda boleh saja semasa saya bercerita, saya share saya punya pengalaman untuk membangunkan MOOC ini.
Dr. Jamal, ada
silakan.
nak share slide?
Ya, ada. Nanti saya akan share sikit
Okay.
lagi. Okay?
Alright.
Anytime nak tanya je, sebab kita lebih kepada two-way communication, kita lebih interaktif, sembang sama-sama. Okay? Alright, kita tak mahu lagi lebih formal. Dan saya tengok pun tadi slide Dr. T tadi dah banyak cover saya punya. Kan? Nanti kalau saya ulang balik benda ni, saya pasti ramai orang yang agak alamak dan benda yang sama je kan. Alright.
Lain perspektif.
So saya tukar sikit dia punya perspektif. Saya suka kita sebab saya santai, saya cerita pengalaman saya bagaimana saya membangunkan MOOC saya, dan sambil tu saya tunjukkan dalam MOOC saya yang sebenarnya bagaimana mungkin ciri-ciri yang telah dibincangkan oleh Dr. T itu, bagaimana benda perkara-perkara itu dapat diaplikasikan, dapat kita gunakan, dapat kita jajarkan dalam kita punya pembinaan MOOC kita. Okey? Boleh semua? Alright.
Boleh.
Okay, are you ready, cik? Macam
boleh. Anggap kami student hari ni.
Alright. Pertama sekali, sebenarnya saya ada dua MOOC. Satu ialah MOOC kursus yang saya gunakan untuk mengajar pelajar-pelajar saya, iaitu kursus PGT 219 pengantar kaedah mengajar ilmu kemanusiaan, iaitu yang saya dah develop dah lama dah, dalam 2-3 tahun lepas, dan ada 1,000 lebih kalau tak salah saya partisipan yang dah mengikut kaedah pembelajaran secara MOOC, dan saya tak pakai guna e-learn, dan saya gunakan platform MOOC itu sendiri sebagai platform untuk pembelajaran bagi kursus tersebut. Dan feedback daripada pelajar-pelajar, dia rasa macam canggih sikit lah dia katakan. Lain sikit daripada e-learn kan, sebab banyak perkara-perkara yang tak ada dalam e-learn, dia pun boleh explore di dalam MOOC ni. Sebab MOOC ni nampak macam lebih dia begitu, orang kata kita boleh lebih mesra, lebih interaktif dan senang untuk berhubung dengan pelajar kita. Okey. Kemudian lagi satu ialah saya bangunkan MOOC tingkah laku buli ya. MOOC tingkah laku buli. Okey, saya share saya punya slide.
Boleh? Okey.
Okey, dapat ke?
Okey.
Alright.
Starting to share content. Alright. Oh, ni foto semua tak boleh blur ni.
Ada orang komplain gambar saya tu, dia kata bahaya gambar macam tu.
Betul. Yang saya dapat untuk poster sharing session hari ni pun.
Saya pun insaf bila dengar komen-komen orang macam tu. Okey, lain kali saya tak buat lagi dah, kita janji.
Okay.
Okey. Untuk yang MOOC ini, okey, ini adalah agak slow. Alright. Ini adalah orang kata kalau kita pergi kat landing page saya dalam MOOC saya tu, inilah yang anda dapat lihat poster tentang MOOC saya, pengetahuan dan kesedaran tingkah laku buli. Okey. Jadi inilah MOOC yang telah saya masukkan dalam pertandingan MOOC Challenge untuk tahun lepas. Okey, jadi saya nak cerita sikit. Saya tak nak terlalu teknikal untuk cerita ni, lebih kepada sharing session. Kenapa saya nak join MOOC Challenge ni? Okey, sebenarnya mula-mula kita tak fikir pun untuk nak join pertandingan MOOC ni. Kalau kita tengok hadiah dia memanglah best kan, 3,000 kan kalau dapat jadi champion. Okey, tetapi saya memikirkan bahawa pada ketika dan saat MOOC Challenge ini hendak dilangsungkan, kita telah berhadapan dengan isu berkaitan dengan COVID-19 kan. Banyak terutamanya bagi saya tak dapat nak laksanakan program-program sebabnya saya banyak terlibat dengan program buli yang saya buat secara jaringan industri kepada masyarakat, dan program-program itu kebanyakan tidak dapat dijalankan kerana sekolah memang tak menerima sebarang aktiviti yang untuk dijalankan secara bersemuka kan. So saya fikir bagaimana cara saya nak ubah perkara ini. Jadi bila muncul iklan pertandingan MOOC tu, okey, saya kata why not saya join pertandingan ni. Macam 2 dalam 1 lah. 1 untuk pertandingan dan 1 lagi untuk membantu saya punya membangunkan bahan-bahan dalam saya punya aktiviti pengajaran saya secara online. Dan bersesuaian pula pada ketika itu banyak perlu menjalankan aktiviti secara online. Okey, jadi start daripada situ saya cuba bangunkan MOOC pengetahuan kesedaran tingkah laku buli ini. Okey, tadi masa sesi Dr. T saya tanya berapa lama masa diambil untuk nak hasilkan MOOC yang ini. Okey, macam saya ni ada sejarah sikit. Saya nak share orang kata bagi buka mata rakan-rakan lah. Okey. Sebenarnya saya dah pada peringkat awal tu saya dah memang register nak masuk pertandingan MOOC ni. Okay, saya pun semangat, dia juga semangat buat dia punya framework sebagainya. Dah ada tajuk, dah ada konten-konten yang menarik nak difikirkan untuk dijadikan, nak dipecahkan kepada 5 modul tu. Okey, tiba-tiba tengah-tengah buat-buat tiba-tiba macam saya rasa macam lost kan, macam keseorangan. Saya pun jadi macam kenapa jadi macam ni kan? Sebab saya pun tak tahu. Dah masuk rasanya dah lama-lama jadi macam senyap. Jadi macam sejuk kan? Tapi saya tengok juga tarikh tu, pada satu hari tu tarikh tu Puan Hazwani CDAE call saya, doktor masa tu dah waktu extend 2 minggu diberi untuk extend kan, untuk pertandingan MOOC tu. Doktor tak nak hantar ke, tak nak ni ke? Dia kata dia ada sebabnya bos saya tahu rupa-rupanya ada grup yang untuk membangunkan MOOC ni. Macam mana saya boleh tercicir saya pun tak pasti. Jadi menyebabkan saya agak kita kata macam keseorangan lah.
Grup WhatsApp sokongan CDE ke?
Ya, saya
Oh.
nama saya tercicir. Jadi saya macam orang kata kita jadi keseorangan, kita tak tahu cerita apa, orang lain buat apa kan. Link semua tu saya tak dapat. Jadi dalam masa 2 minggu itulah barulah Azwani bagi tahu saya, okey, kata doktor ada 2 minggu lagi, cubalah buat. Dia kata, cubalah buat. Okey, saya pun macam nak buat tak buat. Okey, last sekali saya buat je lah. Mana yang mampu sebab framework dah ada kan. Okay, saya pun buat. Saya rasa saya mengambil masa hanya 6 hari.
Wow.
6 hari sahaja. Tapi tidurnya pukul 3-4 pagi lah.
Okey.
Untuk menyiapkan MOOC ini dan hantar ke pertandingan tersebut. Nampak tak?
Okay.
Memang saya nak akui.
Ikut ya kawan-kawan.
Saya nak bagi tahu, saya bukan pakar IT, saya bukan
Okay.
yang hebat dari segi nak buat video ke apa-apa saja. Tetapi pada ketika itu saya cuba mengkreatifkan diri saya. Apa yang ada di sekeliling saya, apa yang ada pada saya, itu saya jadikan bahan untuk develop MOOC saya. Okey, saya tak ada green screen, saya tak ada apa semua, tapi apa yang ada, handphone saya adalah sahabat baik ketika saya buat MOOC. Kebanyakan hasilan video, gambar, edited semua tu datang daripada handphone saya saja. Sambil baring-baring itu, sambil itu saya dah edit-edit semua. Kan?
Oh.
Jadi sebenarnya itu yang saya katakan, kita nak membina MOOC ni tak semestinya kita mesti mahir dalam ICT, mahir dalam membina video, mahir dalam membuat konten yang canggih-canggih. Tak, tetapi kalau ada kemahiran itu, saya rasa itu lagi bagus. Tetapi macam saya, mungkin dalam kes kajian ini, kajian saya lah kan, inilah hasilnya. Okey, saya banyak menggunakan apps, begitu je yang biasa kita pakai. Okey, alright. Jadi saya bukan nak katakan apa, maksudnya kalau kita fokus kan, walaupun anda bukan seorang yang mahir dari segi IT dan sebagainya, anda boleh siapkan MOOC tu dalam tempoh seminggu. Dengan syarat anda sudah ada dia punya content, framework dia dan sebagainya, cuma develop dia punya perancangan, apakah aktiviti dia, apakah dia punya penilaian dia. Sebab macam saya buat, saya pun tak fikir memang tak menang pun. Saya kata nak buat dalam 6 hari kan, layan aja kan. Tapi orang kata ada apa something yang membuatkan juri terpesona ke apa ke dengan tingkah laku buli ni, ataupun juri rasa terbuli pula kan. Tengoknya mereka jadi mangsa buli, lalu pilihlah saya, MOOC saya ni antara 3 yang terbaik. Okey, setakat ni ada apa-apa soalan? Saya tak nak panjang-panjang, direct baru nak ni. Ada apa-apa nak tanya?
Belum lagi ni. Belum
Belum
ada
lagi.
semua nak dengar cerita ni.
Okey, alright. Okey, habis 6 hari tu memanglah penat gila kan. Lepas penat gila, lepas tu saya pun orang kata hari sambung terus dapat COVID, terus masuk ICU, duduklah 6 hari dekat ICU. Dr. Azidah tahulah. Tapi bukan nak mengatakan buat MOOC akan masuk ICU kena COVID, no. Tapi apa yang nak tekankan di sini ialah anda boleh siapkan MOOC itu dalam masa yang singkat. Tetapi anda berfokus.
Yes.
Itu je nak cakap kan. Okey, right. Itu yang pertama sekali. Okey, kemudian
Semangat ni. Okay.
okey, nak bagi semangat lah kawan-kawan kan untuk join tandingan MOOC ni. Meriah. Okey. Bila kita nak develop MOOC kan, ini antara yang saya rasa lah, apa yang saya yang memberi kekuatan kepada saya. Nak buat MOOC tu pastikan konten kursus yang anda nak buat itu ialah kepakaran anda, dan yang kedua anda sangat suka untuk buat tajuk tersebut. Kerana dia akan banyak membantu anda. Macam research juga kan. Kalau kita buat research benda-benda perkara yang kita tak suka buat, dalam kita akan boring. Tetapi kalau kita buat perkara yang kita suka, contohnya saya memang mengkaji tentang tingkah laku buli dalam research saya, dan saya implement pula dalam saya punya projek-projek dan sebagainya, dan akhirnya saya masukkan sini sebagai dalam bentuk MOOC, dia akan menarik sebab kita akan rasa ada kesinambungan dan seronok untuk nak buat tu. Bila dapat feel seronok tu, dia akan terus berterusan. Itu yang pertama sekali. Jadi pastikan topik yang sesuai dan anda suka topik tersebut. Alright, itu yang pertama. Kemudian alright, cakap panjang, saya rasa kalau dari segi orang kata pengajaran ni, orang lama orang boring kan. Jadi saya nak tunjuk sikit. Okey. Ini adalah MOOC saya. Okey, dia punya alamat anda boleh terjah di situ.
Free to join kan Dr. Jamal?
Ya, dia ada dalam USM MOOC. Okey,
Okay.
anda boleh masuk situ. Free to join je, tak ada bayar-bayar lagi pun. Okey, jadi boleh join. Ini adalah dia punya homepage. Okey, anda
Dr. Jamal go full screen please.
full screen. Oh, sorry. Alright, okey. Alright, boleh dapat Okey, dapat?
Okay.
Alright. Okey. Dalam MOOC saya, okey, dekat anda lihat ini adalah dia punya homepage. Anda dapat lihat tak di sebelah gambar saya tu ada watak kartun kan, animasi kan. Tadi ada soalan yang tanya boleh tak kita masukkan animasi kan, animasi dalam MOOC ni. Macam saya katakan di awal-awal tadi, yang penting kita kreativitikan diri kita kreatifkan diri anda, apa-apa saja di sekeliling anda jika sesuai, jadikan ia sebagai bahan yang menjadikan MOOC anda something yang istimewa. Okey, dalam MOOC saya ni, saya menjadikan watak kartun ni, ya, nama dia Mr. Buddy. Okey, Mr. Buddy ni sebenarnya dia adalah pembantu saya dalam MOOC ini. Dan saya ada seorang lagi RA juga yang membantu saya dalam membangunkan MOOC ni. Okey. Tetapi Mr. Buddy ni dia ada session. Dia sendiri memberi kuliah, memberi ceramah dan sebagainya. Yang dia perlu kreatif lah bagaimana nak menghasilkan apa kita panggil avatar. Ya, avatar ini di dalam anda punya MOOC. Okey, apa yang saya buat?
Dapat, Dr. Jamal, macam mana Dr. Jamal dapat idea nak buat ni?
Avatar ni? Dia macam spontan. Saya kata kalau biasa saya tengok banyak MOOC kan. Hanya kadang-kadang terlalu formal kan. Kita tengok dia cakap very academic, formal. Saya kata saya nak ubah sebab tajuk saya ni dia lebih kepada pendidikan sepanjang hayat. Kemudian saya nak tunjukkan fokus kepada orang luar, terutamanya kepada pelajar, kepada guru-guru yang perlu menguasai ini perkara ini, dan juga kepada parent yang kadang-kadang mereka banyak bertanya bagaimana nak mengatasi masalah buli kan, atau anak mereka dibuli dan sebagainya. Jadi saya rasa perlu ada satu konsep yang sesuai untuk kita terjemahkan sampaikan kepada kita punya pelajar bahawa bila kita kata orang kata buli saja, dia mesti yang bersifat negatif, betul tak? Yang berbentuk punishment, hukuman. Mengapa kita tak tukar kepada satu yang menarik, yang menyeronokkan, yang fun? Salah satu cara bagaimana kita nak menyelesaikan isu buli ini. Jadi saya rasa dengan menggunakan MOOC dengan konsep yang lebih ceria, lebih santai. Kalau tengok kat sini pun saya kata okey, selamat datang buli, anda menikmati pembelajaran secara santai dan menyeronokkan. Saya menekankan mereka belajar santai dan seronok. Okey, semoga segala ilmu yang mampu menjadikan anda sebagai seorang wira hati badi. Okey, hati badi ni saya lebih kepada merujuk pada program saya yang merujuk pada program anti bully, di mana kami nak tukar budak-budak di sekolah ni daripada hati mereka, hati nak membuli, kepada hati sahabat, hati badi. Iaitu kita nak tukar temanya. Macam itulah. Okey. Jadi dengan adanya watak avatar ini, saya rasa dia telah menghidupkan banyak ya dalam saya punya pembangunan MOOC ni. Okay, nanti saya akan tunjuk antara aktiviti yang melibatkan dengan Mr. Buddy. Saya panggil Mr. Budi. Saya perkenalkan dia Mr. Budi. Okey. Alright. Okey, kemudian ini landing page. Okey, yang selepas ni sebanyak lebih kepada konten dan teknikal. Saya tak nak cerita kot sebab mungkin Dr. Teh dah cover tadi. Saya terus nak pergi kepada video saya.
Dr. Jamal, boleh cerita juga sebab Dr. Teh tu dia punya konten adalah daripada academic courses. Dr. Jamal ni untuk lifelong learning, maksud bukan daripada BPK. So something different.
Okey, saya rasa tak ada banyak yang berbeza, terutamanya sebab ianya cara bagaimana kita nak mempersembahkan MOOC kita kepada kita punya pelayar lah kan, pelajar kita. Kan, kalau kepada pelajar kita, saya rasa perkara yang sama juga perlu ada. Elemen-elemen yang ada bagi landing page ini sama saja. Sebab saya lihat, kalau kita lihat di sini, kalau bagi tajuk untuk landing page, kita perlu ada tajuk yang ada bermaklumat kan, tajuk yang ringkas dan juga relevan dengan apa yang kita nak sampaikan, konten yang kita nak sampaikan. Jadi tajuk tu kena orang kata catchy kan, jangan terlalu panjang dan sebagainya. Macam saya tulis tadi lebih kepada tingkah laku buli. Dan secara automatiknya orang dah tahu dah. MOOC ini berkaitan dengan tingkah laku buli. Dan kepada rakan-rakan pensyarah semua boleh fikirkan tajuk yang mudah, tidak perlu meleret dan orang akan ingat sampai bila-bila tajuk tu. Jadi mudah sebab nak cari. Kalau anda ubah tajuk nanti dah tak jumpa pula. Kan, jadi tajuk kena kekal. Okey. Kemudian dalam landing page tu kena ada promotion video macam ni lah kan. Video yang saya buat ni nanti saya boleh tunjukkan lah. Okey. Kemudian ada sinopsis kursus dan juga hasil pelajaran yang jelas dan nyata. Okey, lagi satu perkara yang penting dalam penghasilan MOOC, Sebab kita nak mengajar ada 5 modul dan setiap modul itu perlu ada dia punya hasil pembelajaran yang mesti selari. Segala penilaian dia, aktiviti dia, pengajaran dia perlu dia konsisten dengan dia punya hasil pembelajaran yang nak dicapai di akhir pembelajaran MOOC tersebut. Ini macam kita kuliah kita lah kan. Akhirnya kita nak apa? Di akhir kuliahnya apa yang perlu dikuasai dan sebagainya. Begitu juga dalam MOOC ini sebab dia murid belajar secara bersendirian menghadapi MOOC kan. Jadi perkara-perkara itu sangat penting. Alright? Okay. Dia dah pukul berapa sekarang? Pukul 4. Okay.
Okay, ada masa.
Alright. Okay, kemudian okey, gambaran keseluruhan tu ataupun overview kita punya MOOC tersebut, apa yang perlu ada ialah yang pertama sekali supaya kita nak menarik perhatian kan, nak menarik perhatian pelajar untuk join kursus kita kena adalah welcoming kepada mereka kan. Selamat datang. Okey, macam saya tulis ni selamat datang. Okey. Mana dia? Okey, selamat datang dan kita nyatakanlah sedikit kita punya kat sini tentang tingkah laku buli. Okey, kemudian orientasi dia. Jadi yang mungkin perkara yang membezakannya ialah bila kita tengok kepada overview untuk kursus anda tersebut ialah dia lebih kepada bagaimana nak melekatkan nak menarik perhatian supaya pelajar-pelajar itu masuk kita punya MOOC dia terasa macam wow, apa yang menarik lagi. Macam saya banyak menggunakan warna-warna yang garang kan. Warna yang garang, warna gelap. Hanya sebab saya nak kaitkan dengan isu buli itu sendiri. Maksudnya anda juga perlu ada konsep yang sesuai. Konsep apa yang nak digunakan dalam membangunkan MOOC anda. Yang ini yang saya rasa ikut kepada kreativiti masing-masing. Kesesuaian kursus dengan bagaimana anda nak supaya orang tengok, wow, dia akan suka dengan konsep yang kita nak sampaikan dari segi visualnya. Okey. Kemudian arahan. Bila kita dalam MOOC ni biasanya bila budak melayari MOOC kita tak ada. Kan kita tak ada di situ. Tetapi yang ada hanyalah arahan-arahan kita. Jadi bila setiap arahan yang kita nyatakan di dalam MOOC tersebut, pastikan ianya ditulis dengan ringkas, dengan baik dan memudahkan. Sebab dari segi IT ni, pelajar kita dia tak nak suka arahan yang panjang-panjang. Dia kena ringkas, tepat dan terus directly. Kan? Jadi itu akan membantu mereka. Kalau dia baca banyak, dia tengok tulisan-tulisan panjang, dia sudah mulai give up, dia tak nak tengok dah. Ini di antara tip lah. Okay? Kemudian perlu ada sinopsis kursus dalam ini. Dan juga ada juga perlu menyediakan maklumat hubungan, maksudnya dengan siapa pelajar ingin hubungi anda, bagaimana caranya dan sebagainya. Dan juga perlu ada sesi ice breaking. Okey, nanti saya akan tunjuk, saya pun buatkan satu sesi ice breaking, maksudnya masuk-masuk kita nak kenal dengan antara lain, mungkin sharing dia punya pengalaman dan sebagainya kan. Okey, right. Okey, ada apa setakat ni? Panjang saya cakap ni.
Okey, setakat ni. Tadi Puan Hazwani kata
Okey.
CDA memang akan follow up. Semua yang mendaftar untuk MOOC Challenge tu CDA akan follow up. So jangan risau, jangan rasa keseorangan macam Dr. Jamal kata awal tadi.
Okey. Dr. Azharni tak salah, mungkin saya yang tersilap, mungkin saya tak masuk nama-nama, mungkinlah kesilapan di pihak saya. Okey, right. Okey, seterusnya perkara yang penting juga perlu ada bila anda telah membangunkan kursus anda kan, anda dah tahu dah topik-topik yang penting yang nak dimasukkan di dalam MOOC anda. Kalau pertandingan MOOC Challenge ni dia ada 5 modul, jadi anda janganlah yang 14 minggu tu anda nak cramkan, jadikan kepada 5 modul. Cukup tengok kesesuaian tajuk-tajuk dan aktiviti dan penilaian yang sesuai. Yang seperti yang contohnya dekat saya ada 5 modul di sini. Yang modul yang pertama saya lebih menekankan kepada definisi dan juga konsep-konsep buli. Jadi dalam MOOC yang pertama tu kan, dalam unit 1 tu tekankan kepada definisi buli, konsep-konsep buli macam dalam bentuk mikro sebab kita tak nak terlalu panjang Jadi video-video yang disampaikan juga adalah ringkas, pendek dan tidak perlu panjang. Jadi penguasaan lebih kepada pelajar bila dia belajar sedikit-sedikit, ya. Belajar sedikit-sedikit tapi dia faham. Ini konsep mikro. Okey. Alright, kemudian pastikan kurangkan kesalahan. Kalau perfect, tak ada salah ejaan, tak ada kesalahan tata bahasa, saya rasa lagi baiklah, ya. Kemudian sumber yang pelbagai, menyediakan pelbagai aktiviti dengan format yang berbeza untuk pelajar membangunkan pemikiran aras tinggi dan juga kemahiran menyelesaikan masalah. Okey, dalam saya ketika saya membangunkan MOOC ni, perkara yang paling susah untuk kita buat ialah bagaimana nak membuat penilaian ni. Kan, bagaimana pun macam kita rasa jam, nak buat apa lagi supaya kita nak mempelbagaikan, kan. Prof Karim dah ada mention rujuk buku ni ada banyak, dia kata, tapi saya tak sempat nak tengok dalam 6 hari tu, kan. Memang tak sempat nak tengok. Jadi apa yang saya rasa sesuai, saya fikirkan bersesuaian dengan aras kognitif yang kita nak capai, bersesuaian dengan hasil pembelajaran yang kita nak capai, kita buat. Okey, contohnya saya ada banyak contohnya membuat murid itu perlu membincangkan video berkaitan dengan buli, dan saya cuba menekankan dengan tajuk-tajuk dia, aspek-aspek apa yang perlu dibincangkan. Jadi itu merupakan antara aktiviti yang dirancanglah. Ada pelbagai lagi aktiviti, ada buat main puzzle sebab dalam membangunkan MOOC tingkah laku buli ini, saya suka kepada game, banyak unsur-unsur permainan. Ya, sebab saya rasa pelajar akan mudah tertarik dengan game based learning ni. Jadi mereka akan masuk dan cuba bermain sambil mereka belajar. Ya, okey, alright. Kemudian seperti yang dinyatakan tadi, arahan untuk setiap aktiviti adalah perlu jelas. Okey, kerana bila tak jelas, jadi akan menimbulkan kekeliruan, mereka tak faham dan mereka membuat aktiviti tersebut dengan tidak betul. Okey, untuk seterusnya bahagian penilaian ini, okey, ini antara ada banyaklah penilaian bagi setiap MOOC tersebut. Okey, ini contohnya saya tunjukkan, saya buat dalam bentuk silang kata, mereka boleh download, mereka tulis dan mereka boleh submit balik di dalam ruang yang sedia. Ini nampak tidak interaktif lah, tetapi ini adalah satu cara mana mereka juga boleh download dan submit. Anda juga kalau boleh buat, mereka terus boleh isi saja, interaktif terus masuk ke dalam silang kata tersebut. Okey. Okey, untuk penilaian berpusat kepada pelajar, dan pastikan juga arahan untuk setiap penilaian adalah jelas. Okey, jadi contohnya dekat sini, sila lengkapkan teka silang kata di bawah, muat turun, cetak, lengkapkan dan muat naik semula jawapan teka silang kata anda dan lengkapkan. Maksudnya mudah. Kalau kita target grup kita adalah pelajar, jadi mereka boleh faham dengan jelas ayat-ayat yang pendek dan tepat. Okey, alright. Okey, ini untuk berkaitan dengan penilaian, dan anda perlu yang penting bahagian penilaian dia mesti mengukur apa yang nak diukur lah, apa yang anda bincangkan dalam video, dalam kuliah modul tersebut, yang itu perkara itulah juga yang perlu anda nilai. Okey. Seterusnya video. Okey, video slide presentation, saya rasa tadi Dr. Teh pun dah cerita banyak. Okey. Dan jadi saya suka lebih terus kepada share dengan pergi kepada MOOC tingkah laku buli. Boleh Dr. Red?
Boleh. Silakan.
Alright.
Kami nak tengok.
Nak tengok saya ke nak tengok tu Abang Budi?
Nak tengok dua-dua.
Abang Budi. Okey. Kenapa dia tak? Okey, saya stop sharing dulu.
Okay.
Okey, dapat ke?
Still loading. Okay, now we can see.
Okay, right. Okay, ini adalah MOOC tingkah laku buli. Okay, macam saya ceritakan tadi, ini adalah dia punya halaman utama ataupun homepage dia. Saya ada 5 modul. Yang ini saya masukkan kita sebelum buat video dan sebagainya, yang perkara pertama yang perlu buat ialah kita merangka. Ini kalau jika bagi saya lah, saya lebih suka kepada rangka dulu keseluruhan kursus itu supaya kita dapat menyusun dengan cantik. Lepas tu baru kita start dengan membuat video ke, bahan-bahan pengajaran ke, membuat aktiviti dan juga penilaian dengan rangka yang tersedia seperti ini. Okey, kemudian arahan simple saja. Okey. Sila tonton video. Okey. Video apa sebenarnya? Okey, ini ialah video untuk promosi. Ya, video ini saya tengok dululah, saya tak nak komen banyak-banyak, nanti rakan-rakan semua kata saya banyak bercakap pula. Okey. Ada suara ke?
Tak dengar
Oh,
tu.
sorry.
Okey. Rasanya Pak banyak cakap tu tak dapat dielakkan sebagai seorang pensyarah.
Okey.
Tak dengar suara Dr. Jamal.
Tak dengar?
Tak dengar. Dr. Jamal boleh share link untuk your Mooc. Okey, clear. Ada sikit, sekejap saja.
Ada suara lagi tak?
Dia putus-putus.
Oh, mungkin line kot.
Line lah. Line hiccup.
Saya Mr.
Okey, ini dia Mr. Budi ya. Saya gunakan elemen avatar dalam video-video saya dan juga dalam program tersebut.
Setahilah wira-wira pribadi dengan mengikuti kursus ini bagi meningkatkan pengetahuan dan kesedaran anda tentang tingkah laku. Percayalah, itu mampu untuk mengubah dan mencegah beberapa bullying dan terus melebar. And a body not bullying. Kursus ini sebenarnya untuk meningkatkan pengetahuan dan juga kesedaran anda tentang tingkah laku. Mengetahui bahawa isu bullying merupakan satu fenomena yang sangat serius yang mana ia memerlukan satu cara, satu pendekatan bagaimana untuk mengatasi. Jadi dengan menyertai kursus ini, anda akan dibekalkan dengan ilmu pengetahuan dan juga kemahiran bagaimana untuk menangani isu bullying.
Okey, jadi itu video promosi ya.
Soalan yang bermain di minda semua orang. Bagaimana buat video yang ada avatar? Gabungkan apa tu?
Suara saya clear ke?
Clear.
Okey, dekat sini dah guru menutup lah.
Okey. Penang mendung saja.
Okey, ini kat Sebenjaya. Okey, video tu sebenarnya saya rasa anda pun ada dia punya tools tu untuk membuat avatar. Saya hanya gunakan handphone ni saja, ya. Handphone ni saja. Dalam ni dah memang ada avatar tu. Maksudnya kita hanya snap gambar kita dan kita create avatar tersebut dan
Itu iPhone ke?
Ini Note 9.
Okey. Ingatkan geng-geng ni.
Kami tak pakai Apple.
Okey. Nanti terasa pula yang pakai ni Apple. Kalau kat iPhone Note 9 tu maksudnya automatik dah ada avatar?
Ya, avatar tu dah ada. Maksud kita boleh create avatar tersebut. Cuma tu yang saya katakan, anda perlu kreatif. Sekarang ni dah ada kan? Avatar tu dah ada dalam handphone. Jadi macam mana nak integratekan dalam video anda. Itu sajalah. Mudah saja kan? Jadi video ni sebenarnya saya pun tak pakai green screen, tak pakai, orang kata very traditional lah kan. Ikut pandai-pandai sendiri macam mana. Perasan tak di belakang tu ada macam ni, perasan ni ya? Background dia.
Ada background?
Yang berpusing-pusing kan? Kristal yang berpusing-pusing tu kan? Okey, kristal yang pusing-pusing tu macam mana dapat dia? Okey, saya dapatkan daripada dalam Pinterest kan. Dalam Pinterest ada banyak-banyak video yang cantik dan saya snapkan dan guna video tersebut dan gunakan Canva, jadikan video. Letak di lapisan belakang sekali. Macam tu, very simple dah. Tak ada nak guna teknik-teknik yang canggih-canggih dalam penghasilan video ni. Tapi kalau kita kreatif, saya rasa hasilnya boleh tahan lah kan. Betul tak hasil video ni boleh tahan lah kan?
Yelah, orang dah menang boleh cakap macam tu.
Maksudnya kita boleh gunakan kreativiti kita dan juga kita gabungkan dengan kemahiran yang kita ada dan knowledge yang ada untuk hasilkan video yang macam ni. Dan saya gunakan ni apps ya, saya gunakan apps. Apps saya download dalam handphone dan saya cuma masukkan rakaman video saya cakap-cakap depan kamera, saya masukkan terus ke dalam app tersebut yang develop video dan saya gabungkan beberapa video tu menggunakan Canva. Dan hasilnya macam ni lah. Dan kalau boleh anda nampak mungkin nanti mungkin anda akan nampak dia kadang-kadang kita tak berbayar kan, kita akan nampaklah dia punya video player apa pun dia punya nama apps tersebut lah. Okay, tetapi inilah antara cara untuk bagaimana nak simple lah kalau anda nak buat video dengan cepat, cari apps yang menghasilkan video dan gunakan apps tersebut. Kalau anda seperti saya, tetapi anda sebaiknya dapatkan kemahiran yang lebih baik bagaimana untuk membangunkan video yang lebih hebat lah. Okey, tetapi kalau nak cepat, saya cadangkan macam ni pun boleh kan. Itu cadangan saya, tetapi macam Prof Karim kata, buatlah yang kalau boleh yang baik, yang menarik kan. Okey. Alright, kemudian dalam bahagian ini juga kita perlu ada panduan pembelajaran tingkah laku. Maksudnya kita bila pelajar mula masuk dalam kita punya MOOCs kan, apa yang mereka akan lihat ialah macam mana nak melayari MOOC ni kan. Kadang-kadang mereka tak tahu cara dia kan. Okey, tiba-tiba dah habis ya, sekejap. Lines agak slow di sini.
Dia sebab hujan.
Okey, saya tak nak kacau video ni. Kalau kacau kan dia stop, dia buka. Okey. Okay, kita boleh buat panduan, memberi cara pada bagaimana mereka nak melayari MOOC tersebut. Apa yang perlu mereka lakukan. Jadi kita boleh bagi sedikit panduan lah berdasarkan video. Jadi kita boleh create
Selamat
video lah.
datang ke kursus pengetahuan kesedaran tentang tingkah laku buli. Kursus ini mengandungi 5 modul.
Okey, terangkanlah daripada peringkat awal supaya mereka faham. Dapat overall picture tentang kursus tersebut dan mereka akan mula
modul kelima berkaitan dengan strategi
explore anda punya MOOC. Okey.
Setelah mendaftar kursus ini, anda boleh memulakannya dengan modul 1, definisi dan konsep tingkah laku budi. Dalam modul 1 ini,
okey, ini yang dikatakan sebagai struktur kursus yang mana kita menyusun topik-topik dalam bentuk modul ya. Okey.
Kuliah berkaitan dengan tajuk, kemudian aktiviti pembelajaran dan juga penilaian bagi modul tersebut. Anda boleh memulakan pembelajaran anda dengan melihat video kuliah pembelajaran yang disediakan.
Okey, ya. Jadi seterusnya apa yang perlu ada di dalam homepage anda ialah hasil pembelajaran. Yang ini saya katakan hasil pembelajaran yang mana kita tekankan di sini anda mengikut kursus masing-masing lah. Apa yang anda hendak mereka capai di akhir pembelajaran bagi kursus tersebut perlu dinyatakanlah dengan baik dengan cara mungkin anda boleh gunakan mempersembahkannya dengan menggunakan banyak apps yang ada yang boleh dikaitkan untuk meningkatkan kualiti. Yang ini saya katakan sebagai aktiviti ice breaking. Jadi bila pertama sekali mereka bertemu, mungkin kita nak berkenalan di antara rakan-rakan lah, pelajar-pelajar kita. Jadi kita buatkan aktiviti ice breaking. Dan saya di sini saya pilih untuk supaya aktiviti berfungsi pengalaman ya, kongsikan pengalaman budi anda zaman persekolahan di sini. Maksudnya saya bagi video. Video ni saya buat daripada game anak saya je sebenarnya. Kan? Anak saya main sikit macam best saja, macam boleh buat video. Saya pun try lah create daripada game tersebut. Kan? Macam nama game pun saya betul. Jadi kita pun boleh buat. Boleh nampak ke tu?
Boleh. Cuma dia ni lag, ada lag.
Saya besarkan. Okey.
putus-putus lah sebab line internet. So kalau nak post,
Okey.
masing-masing kena masuk sendiri dalam MOOC tingkah laku
Ya,
budi.
ya, betul. Okey. Okey, kemudian dalam aktiviti ice breaking ni maksudnya mereka boleh share lah pengalaman masing-masing ya. Bagaimana peristiwa buli yang mereka alami di dalam persekolahan. Jadi dekat sini mereka akan share lah. Dekat sini tak ada lagi, tak siapa lagi nak share. Okey. Alright. Okey, kemudian saya nak share aktiviti-aktiviti yang kita buat ya. Okey, contohnya okey, ini adalah dalam bentuk kuliah. Sebagai video kuliah yang saya gunakan PowerPoint dan saya gunakan apa saya pun tak ingat apa dah, saya beritahu apa dia, boleh saya ingat boleh.
Akan bersama anda untuk menerangkan tentang
Okey, jadi saya
modul
gunakan
yang
PowerPoint
pertama,
tapi saya
iaitu definasi
gabungkan
tingkah
dengan
laku buli.
oh ya, tak ingat.
Record PowerPoint ke ni?
Kes buli dalam
Bukan
kalangan
PowerPoint, saya
murid yang
gunakan
berlaku di sekolah
Allahu
semakin
Akbar.
serius dan
Okey,
Screen
tak apa.
omatic. Okey, screen omatic.
Oh,
Tingkat
speaker somatic.
Ya.
tentang
Tetapi kemudian
keselamatan
dah
anak-anak
record,
mereka
kemudian
ketika berada di
supaya
sekolah
nampak ada efek yang
maupun di
belakang-belakang ni.
asrama.
Aha.
Kan? Saya gunakan konsep macam tadi, saya video yang pertama tadi, saya cari
di mana seorang murid
video-video yang
segera
ada
dibuli oleh
menunjukkan
pelajar
macam
senior di
apa
sekolah tersebut.
grafik
Hal
tersebut
ini
dan
merupakan satu
gunakan
kes
Canva untuk
kecederaan
buat
yang
video
serius
semula. Maksudnya
yang
ada dua tiga lapis.
Okey.
Walau bagaimanapun
Dan
pelakuan buli di negara ini bukan hanya menyebabkan kecederaan,
ini antara kuliah-kuliah
malah
yang
mengakibatkan
telah ada
kehilangan
dalam
nyawa.
setiap modul,
Jadi,
dan setiap modul ni kalau saya modul satu
menangani
ada 3
isu
unit,
ini,
maksudnya ada 3
kita
kuliah yang dia akan
haruslah
dibincangkan lah.
memahami
Ya.
apakah
Okey,
yang
kemudiannya
didefinisikan sebagai tingkah laku buli.
saya yang
Terdapat
saya nak
beberapa
kaitkan
pakar
dengan
yang telah memberikan
Sekejap, hilang
definisi
suara dia.
tentang tingkah laku buli. Dan menurut pengkaji tersohor dalam bidang kajian buli,
Okey, saya nak tunjukkan bagaimana saya menggunakan animation tadi, iaitu hati badi, avatar hati badi itu, di mana dia pula menyampaikan kuliah. Okey. Boleh dengar saya ke, sebab dekat sini agak slow lah, line agak slow.
Suara Dr. Jamal clear. Cuma yang on screen tu dia lambat. Dia
Okey, right.
ada lag time.
Okey. Okey, saya di sini untuk strategi berhadapan dengan bully, maksudnya bagaimana saya bagi tips bagaimana pelajar-pelajar ini dapat mengelakkan diri daripada mereka daripada dibuli. Okey, dan saya gunakan avatar ini untuk menghidupkan video. Ya. Dia agak slow, dekat sini agak slow lah.
Okey, rasanya kena masuk, masing-masing kena masuk lah.
Ya. Okey, saya cuma nak tunjukkan bagaimana elemen ini saya gunakan.
Assalamualaikum
Okey.
dan salam sejahtera.
Dapat jelas ke?
Okey.
Alright.
Dan kita masih lagi mengekalkan tajuk yang sama, iaitu strategi bagaimana kita nak berhadapan dengan pembuli ataupun bagaimana untuk mengatasi pembuli-pembuli ini. Isu buli.
Saya takut nak lajukan,
Bersama
takut nanti dia terus
saya,
hilang.
Tidak ada lagi Mr. Budi yang tak sabar-sabar nak lagi menjelaskan kepada anda 8 lagi tips ataupun strategi bagaimana untuk berhadapan dengan pembuli. Jadi, kerana Mr. Budi pun dah tak sabar-sabar lagi, jom kita dengarkan apa yang nak dicelotehkan oleh beliau. Hai, merah hati badi semua. Okey, ini satu tip bagaimana untuk mengelakkan diri anda supaya tidak menjadi seorang pembuli yang tidak sadar sedari. Okey, Ya, dengan cara luangkan masa untuk anda berfikir sebelum anda memulai. Sekiranya anda memuji orang lain kerana anda mempunyai masalah, marah, sebelum anda bertindak. Contohnya, jika seseorang mengatakan bahawa membuatkan anda kecewa, tarik nafas panjang-panjang dan berhenti sebentar sebelum anda menjawab. Sebenarnya, anda mampu untuk mengawal kata-kata dan tingkah laku anda. Assalamualaikum semua wira hati badi. Ini satu tip bagaimana untuk mengatasi supaya anda tidak dibuli.
Okey, jadi itu yang saya gunakan, bagaimana avatar tadi boleh digunakan di dalam penyampaian ketika kita menyampaikan konten kepada pelajar kita. Jadi dia akan jadi lebih orang kata menarik perhatian pelajar kita. Tetapi kalau pelajar kita, target group kita adalah golongan remaja, kanak-kanak. Sebab yang inilah target group bagi MOOC yang ini. Okey. Alright, setakat ni ada apa nak ditanyakan?
Soalan daripada saya. Okey,
Okey.
macam mana ni setelah MOOC ni dihasilkan, macam mana Dr. Jamal market ataupun bawa ke halayak MOOC ni untuk digunakan?
Okey, buat masa ni MOOC ni berada di platform USM MOOC sajalah. Okey, maksudnya berada dalam MOOC USM, tetapi saya juga telah menggunakan MOOC ini untuk digunakan, tapi belum digunakan lagi dah. Maksudnya telah merancang untuk memasukkan dalam tempat saya ada mohon grant macam grant bijin. Bagaimana nak masukkan ia sebagai satu program yang mana pelajar-pelajar maupun guru-guru dalam program tersebut dapat belajar dengan menggunakan MOOC yang ini. Ya, tapi buat masa ini ianya masih lagi dalam bentuk percuma lah. Sebab kita tak ada lagi macam tu lah.
Dari segi KPI peribadi, kiranya selain pada menang MOOC challenge, dari segi apa yang motivate Dr. Jamal lah?
Maksudnya motivate dari segi apa tu?
Untuk buat MOOC.
Okey, macam saya katakan tadi, kadang-kadang saya pun seronok buat video ni. Sebab dia saya gunakan handphone saja kan.
Okey.
Jadi kadang-kadang sambil-sambil kita tak ada apa, rehat santai, kita buat sikit-sikit dapat idea. Oh, kalau buat macam ni, cuba buat. Cuba try lah. Maksudnya kita mencuba sesuatu dan hasil ni kalau macam saya try macam ni, ginilah hasilnya. Gunakan avatar untuk menyampaikan konten, berjaya jugalah. Maksudnya boleh berjaya bila perkara ini tunjukkan kepada pelajar pun kata, oh, satu yang menarik lah, dia orang suka kan. Maksudnya mencuba sesuatu dan bila kita try berjaya, dia akan lebih memotivasikan kita lah. Bagi saya lah. Tak tahu orang lain macam mana. Alright.
Tadi di slide awal tu saya nampak selain pada nama Dr. Jamal dan juga avatar, ada satu nama RA ya?
Ya, itu RA saya, Muhammad Syamsul Azhar. Dia adalah saya punya RA, dia sedang membuat PhD sekarang lah.
Oh, sebab question ya, macam masing-masing yang terlibat buat MOOC ni, kita tak ada special budget atau support financial kan? So macam mana hire RA?
Yang ni ialah macam kita saling setuju, tanya dia nak join tak. Maksudnya saya akan masukkan nama anda.
So win-win lah.
Macam tu. Okay. Maksudnya bila menang hari tu, maksudnya saya bagilah sedikit kenduri kat dia.
Okay. It's win-win solution. Okay.
Yes. Sebab dia pun membuat PhD tentang bully cyber. Jadi saya rasa benda ni sangat membantu dia dalam develop dia punya modul dan dia dapat idea bagaimana nak membangunkan dia punya modul dalam dia punya research lah. Macam tu.
Okay. Kawan-kawan daripada ni audience ada tak nak tanya? Sebab ni dah makin lemah bateri masing-masing.
Ya, betul.
Okay. Dari segi support CDAE, okay, macam mana Dr. Jamal?
Okay, saya rasa CDAE bagi
apa yang dibantu? Apa CDAE boleh bantu?
Okay, dari segi kadang-kadang kita sukar untuk nak tahu, nak dapatkan, bila kita nak buat design macam ni, apa software kita nak pakai, apa kena tapi bila CDAE bagi idea cadangan-cadangan kan, dia bagi link tersebut dan bila kita try, dan berjaya, saya rasa itu sangat bagus lah ya. Dia akan banyak membantu kita dalam kita membangunkan kita punya MOOC lah macam tu.
Okey, untuk makluman semua, memang saya telah kongsikan tadi pautan untuk register USM MOOC Challenge masih lagi dibuka sehingga minggu pertama April, dan juga ada pautan untuk USM MOOC, segala info berkaitan dengan USM MOOC Challenge, panduan, siapa yang perlu dihubungi, semua tu ada. Okey, so jangan tunggu-tunggu lagi lah, boleh mulakan hari ini. Okey, Dr. Jamal, last word.
Okey.
Kata-kata ni.
Last word bagi saya ialah
Untuk kami.
ya, apa dia?
Untuk kami ni supaya bersemangat pula buat MOOC dan ataupun buat micro credential.
Ya, okey, yang pertama sekali anda perlu bersyukur kerana CDAE lanjutkan lagi. Tempoh untuk anda berdaftar masuk pertandingan ini, jangan tunggu-tunggu, daftar dulu terus. Daftar, ada idea dan mula buat. Jangan kata tak reti dan takut dan sebagainya. Saya pun sama dengan anda, start daftar tu pun nak buat apa dan sebagainya kan. Tapi bila dah kita start, kita fokus, kita buat dulu, baru kita seronok itu akan datang. Ya. Jangan takut dan teruskan, saya percaya anda akan berjaya.
Kalau tak silap saya boleh register team juga up to 10 orang untuk MOOC challenge. Kalau ada lah yang terlibat nak buat, sebab MOOC is bigger than micro credential.
Ya.
Okay, saya tengok tadi tu ada soalan tentang soalan tentang registration, kemudian perlu complete by the deadline ke nanti kalau join MOOC challenge? Macam Dr. Jamal punya experience tadi dapat extend kan biasanya?
Ya, saya dah buat frame, dia punya framework awal-awal tu, macam lepas tu lama lagi kan, kita fikir lama lagi, tak apa, relax dulu. Relax tu yang saya kata tiba-tiba saya rasa macam lost sebab tak tahu apa cerita dengan MOOC ni kan. Rupanya saya macam saya mungkin mencikirkan diri saya ke atau sebaliknya. Akhirnya bila disedarkan oleh Hazwan Nicole, saya bagi tahu, okey sekarang ni tengah extension time kan, ada 2 minggu lagi dia. Doktor boleh buat lah. Maksudnya saya buat macam tu. Maksudnya kadang-kadang jangan tunggu extension time, terus dah daftar, buat perlahan-lahan kan. Kalau tak nak kena masuk ICU macam saya 6 hari buat dapat ICU. Buat dari sekarang, slow-slow insya-Allah akan berjaya. 5 modul saja. Okey.
Okey, saya dah sharekan tarikh tutup penghantaran MOOC yang lengkap 15 September 2022. So lama lagi tu, April, Mei, Jun, Julai, Ogos. Okey, 5 bulan setengah.
Jangan tunggu lama-lama.
Betul. Okey, terima kasih Dr. Jamal. Okey, bersama kita pada hari ini dengan perkongsian MOOC tingkah laku buli. Saya harap mana-mana rakan yang tadi tu tak puas dapat tengok video avatar, video animasi tu, jadi masing-masing dapat masuk ke dalam, cari je dalam Open Learning USM MOOC, kemudian tingkah laku buli. It's open to public, free. Betul?
Betul.
Okay, so tepukan untuk Dr. Jamal daripada kami dan terima kasih banyak-banyak.
Okay, sama.
Okay, terima kasih juga kepada semua yang bertahan sehingga ke saat-saat akhir sebelum kita tutup majlis kita pada petang ni. Jadi USM MOOC Challenge masih lagi dibuka sehingga 8 April untuk bagi tajuk sahaja. Tak perlu lagi buat video, tak perlu lagi kalau tak ada course mapping pun tak apa. Okey, bagi tajuk je dah boleh register. Bila register anda akan diberi Open Learning License. Kena sign kontrak sikit lah sebab license USM untuk Open Learning adalah terhad. Okey. Bantuan daripada CDAE diberikan dari segi macam-macam, dari segi workshops, dari segi macam tadi tu Dr. T cakap, okay, nak download image Envato, okay, adalah serta-serta apps, studio, semua ada di CDAE. Okay, kalau macam untuk yang di PJJ, boleh maklumkan saya jugalah untuk saya bantu sikit sebanyak sebagai penyelaras micro credential, dan saya juga pernah terlibat sebagai MOOC USM manager, okay, bertahun-tahun yang lalu. Okay, terima kasih semua. Dengan itu Terima kasih kepada Dr. T, Dr. Jamal, okay, dan semua yang menghadiri sesi perkongsian kita pada petang ini. Jangan sia-siakan. Okay, kalau tak tahun ini, kita semua ni bolehlah rancang untuk penghasilan MOOC dan juga micro credential untuk tahun hadapan. Okay. Oh, Dr. Aziza kata nak lantik lagi. Tak apalah, penyelaras micro credential pun cukup dah. Okay, so hari tutup USM MOOC Challenge 8 April. Micro Credential PPPJJ saya masih lagi buka untuk projek Micro Credential 2022. Okay, so boleh emailkan saya nama yang berminat dan saya akan panggil untuk mesyuarat dalam waktu terdekat. Okay, thank you everyone. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera.